Well, the talk has gone from the Phoenix Suns being open to keeping Kevin Durant to apparently aggressively shopping him and looking for a center back in the trade, as well as engaging in talks with the Houston Rockets. We're going to talk about that, plus the Rockets anticipating trades with the Boston Celtics, potentially those talks, more trades around the Lakers and the Wolves. We got a lot of trade news to get into. Let's get into it right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the latest around Kevin Durant. So it seems like there is a lot of now trade chatter going on around Kevin Durant here just over the last hour or so. So one is that the Phoenix Suns have been aggressive in their conversations with the Houston Rockets on a trade involving Kevin Durant. The Suns are apparently anticipating to regain control of the draft picks owned by the Rockets, beginning with the number 10 pick in this year's draft. The Suns have gradually lowered their asking price for Durant. While there is a price that would make sense for the Rockets to add Durant to the otherwise wing core, there is doubt about whether a deal will come to fruition. This is the most concrete thing that we've really heard in regards to Kevin Durant, as far as now we know that they are prioritizing a center. They also want to try to regain control over their own picks back, which Houston does have control over those picks. And it seems to be some type of overlap in what the Houston Rockets are looking for and what the Phoenix Suns are looking for. Even the fact that the Phoenix Suns are even lowering their initial asking price for a player like Kevin Durant, that's really interesting. One of the biggest questions in any potential Kevin Durant trade, though, is are teams going to be comfortable having him on basically as a one-year rental, or are contract extension talks going to be part of basically that trade, right? Think about it with Jimmy getting traded to the Golden State Warriors. Extension was announced shortly thereafter. Are teams going to be looking for something like that as well? If you're a team like the Houston Rockets and you're giving up that flexibility with those picks, as well as a young piece and salary to match Kevin Durant, I would imagine that the Houston Rockets are going to want to be able to lock Kevin Durant into an extension to make sure that they're going to have a number of years for him under their roster with that team so they can try to compete. The Houston Rockets right now, they're in a place where they're shifting to being competitive. And I think that the Phoenix Suns are shifting to this place of that they want to build around Devin Booker if they can, because he's been part of the committee for them to hire a new coach, which means that he has a say in that. Maybe not the end all be all, but he does have a say in that process. So there's that part of it as well. And so it seems like right now Kevin Durant trade talks are already starting to heat up because the Phoenix Suns are trying to get something done before the draft, right? Brian Windhorst reported that he is 98% sure that Kevin Durant will not be on the Suns next year, and teams like the Golden State Warriors, San Antonio Spurs, and Houston Rockets are becoming the most likely destinations for Kevin Durant. This is following a report last week from Shams reported that there was mutual interest between Kevin Durant and the Spurs as well. There's a lot of, and when talk starts picking up like this, and you start hearing that a team has lowered their asking price as well as exactly what they want back, to me that shows that keep your eyes out. Between now and the 22 days left between now and the NBA draft, you could very well get something announced on draft night, if not before, of Kevin Durant being on the move and no longer being a member of the Phoenix Suns, because it seems like it's just a foregone conclusion now. Now, which team is going to make the most sense? I've talked about the Spurs and their where they stand at it before. I don't think the Spurs should jump all in on that personally. I think that they should keep building organically without taking a shot at somebody like Kevin Durant and jump-starting their timeline. But then when you look at the Houston Rockets, they're in a perfect position to try to get Kevin Durant because he brings a lot of what they need to the team, and especially with the reported lowered asking price by the Phoenix Suns, that definitely makes some sense there as well. Now, so you want to look at those things. The Golden State Warriors, I just don't think that's realistic with what they have there. They're going to be teams that are interested in it. I know that the Minnesota Timberwolves were prior announced as a team that could be interested. They were pretty advanced in trade talks at the trade deadline, but this just feels like something's coming, and it's coming sooner rather than later. And the biggest question is going to be who's going to make the biggest offer, who's going to have the nice mix of young players and picks. The Houston Rockets having the Phoenix Suns picks kind of to me would give them a little bit of a leg up, right? Because then the Phoenix Suns were own their own destiny, meaning if they're just not a good team, they would reap the benefits of that, right? And that could put them in a place where they're more apt to rebuild and to get more younger assets and to focus on the development and things like that, while still having Devin Booker, which is still a weird place to be in. I still think they should look to move Devin Booker, but doesn't seem like that's where that franchise is, that they want to hold on to Devin Booker. That's all understandable. When you look at the Houston Rockets and the picks that they have Phoenix Suns pick this year, which is clear, right? We already know that. That's a pick that they have that, could definitely help them out in this draft, no doubt about it. But then the Houston Rockets also have a bevy of other picks as well that they can look to include in that deal. They have the Phoenix Suns pick in 2027. They have the Phoenix Suns pick in 2029. And so those are picks that are valuable to the Phoenix Suns to get back, even if they want to turn around and do another move down the road and get the control back over those picks. That gives them flexibility and fluidity to do so. So what we're hearing now as far as this trade chatter picking up around Kevin Durant, like I said, to me, that means something's coming soon. And if the Phoenix Suns have their way, it means something's coming soon. Now, it could be that maybe that market isn't out there. It doesn't materialize the way that it is, and some teams may want to wait to see how the draft board fares before giving up a draft pick. And maybe there's a case like that. But I still think the Houston Rockets are going to be the team that really makes the most sense there. But apparently the Houston Rockets aren't putting all their chips in one basket when it comes to the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets aren't putting all their chips in one bag when it comes to the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant. Reportedly is that the Rockets could engage in trade talks with the Boston Celtics as well. This one comes from Kelly Iko of The Athletic, who says that heading into the offseason, the Celtics are expected to be active in potential trade talks as they look to shed salary coming into the 2025-26 season. As per Clutch Points Brett Siegel, the Rockets are a team that could stand to benefit from trade talks with the Celtics. Of the players most likely to be moved in the offseason trade, Kristaps Porzingis figures to be at the top of that list. The Celtics currently have the majority of their salary tied up in 5 players: Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Kristaps Porzingis. Siegel reports that the Celtics want to hang on to Brown and White, with Holiday and Porzingis potentially being dangled to offload salary. Now, if somebody offers you Kristaps Porzingis, but you have the opportunity to get Kevin Durant, what do? I think most people are taking Kevin Durant in that case, right? Porzingis getting hurt a lot, those type of things. Not to say that Porzingis couldn't definitely help the Houston Rockets team, because I do think he can. But if you have the opportunity to trade for Kevin Durant, that's what I think you do. That's what I think the Houston Rockets prioritize. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong on that. Maybe the Houston Rockets, in all case, maybe they don't have to give up as many assets when it comes down to that. Maybe they don't. And if that's the case, then maybe they feel better getting Kristaps Porzingis, maintaining some of their assets, control over Phoenix's pick, and then just go forward with that and hope that adding Kristaps, if he's healthy at the right time, it helps you go further in the Western Conference playoffs. But to me, if you have an opportunity at Kevin Durant and he wants to come there, and you have the assets that can get you and give you a leg up on other teams, you take that. Now, we'll see what happens there, but I think that that's a part of all of this, especially with having the number 10 pick in this draft as well. That gives you another asset that makes sense for the Phoenix Suns to go ahead and pull that trigger and make that move. And we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. But when I say that the Houston Rockets aren't putting all their eggs in one basket either, reportedly, it's still a situation to watch. Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the Bucks. Even though the Rockets aren't 100% sure that Giannis will be traded, it seems like they are also linked to Giannis Antetokounmpo. This shouldn't surprise anybody. The Rockets have the trade assets, and I think even more so, the trade assets of the Phoenix Suns picks would be even more enticing to a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. I know the Phoenix Suns getting their own pick back. How would it be more enticing? Is that if the Phoenix Suns can't turn this thing around, that would give the Bucks picks that aren't tied to how good the Rockets become or how good they are in the Bucks if they get those Phoenix Suns picks. And so that could become something that becomes interesting there also. Now, we did hear that there's mutual interest between Giannis and the Toronto Raptors, which maybe then the Houston Rockets would have to bid a little bit more on. But having the picks that the Houston Rockets could include in that trade, I think does make a big difference in that as well. This is the quote: Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo remains a target, team sources said. This is again from The Athletic. But there has been recent uncertainty in the past week on Antetokounmpo's actual availability. not to mention the potential asking price Milwaukee would require. Now, in the last couple of days, we've been talking a lot about what the Toronto Raptors would have to offer for Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? And, that's a deal which, whether or not Scotty Barnes is involved or whatever else, offering a bunch of first-round picks and some pick swaps, the Phoenix Suns can more than match that offer if it comes down to the picks dictating the difference. And they have young talent that they can offer as well that actually makes some sense for the Milwaukee Bucks in a rebuild also. So the Houston Rockets now, we know that they are involved in trade, or they are rumored in trade talks for Kevin Durant, which we'll see what happens there. The Phoenix Suns would preferably want their own draft picks back from the Houston Rockets. And they also want a center, which maybe they can get both there. Then you look at the Giannis Antetokounmpo part, even being involved in trade talks with the Boston Celtics to take one of their players that they're trying to shed some salary. This all paints a very, very interesting scenario in which the Houston Rockets could be in play for two of the biggest names that could be out there available on the trade market leading into the draft. What the Rockets decide to do at number 10 could dictate a lot of what happens with subsequent moves in this trade market. We talked a lot about how wild this offseason could be. And the Houston Rockets hold a key to a lot of that with what they're willing to offer and which one of these players they decide to prioritize. It would not only set the tone for trades this season, but it also would probably set an asking price as well as take some chips off the board for other teams. So look out for the Houston Rockets. They're a team that I think is going to, rightfully so, be very aggressive this offseason at improving their team and getting their team to the place of being able to win a title. That's what they're focused on. They want to be able to win championships. They got a taste of getting close this year. They want to get closer, right? Having a go-to scorer would have helped a lot in that series against the Golden State Warriors, and it kind of pointed to and allowed them kind of a singular focus to focus on to bring in to help this team. So the Houston Rockets being mentioned in all these trade talks should not be surprising to any, and we'll see what happens. Another team, though, that is reportedly open to a shakeup as well. This one comes as well from The Athletic. This is the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Now, Tim Connolly has talked about continuity being a preference there. And even this article points to it. It's still the preference to have continuity. But as all good teams should do, they're still looking at the market to see if there's anything out there that could benefit them, right? Tim Connolly said this. Given my druthers, I'm always kind of erring on the side of continuity. Patience in professional sports is largely non-existent. Those organizations that can show patience tend to have a really high level of success, but patience shouldn't lead to risk aversion. There's something that if we have to shake it up and make us a better team, we're certainly open to that. It took us a while to get acclimated after the Towns trade, and we look forward to returning the core next year and hopefully going a bit further. Now, we know that they've already been linked to Kevin Durant. We've talked about that. We got episodes on the channel of them potentially being linked to Kevin Durant. And I think that would make a lot of sense, especially if that's a move that you already were considering making at the trade deadline to reinvigorate those talks. That makes a lot of sense, right? But the fact of the matter is that with the aggregation that the Phoenix Suns are not allowed to do, it's going to get a little difficult when it comes down to that. But they are a team that is open to making changes, and that's just the fluidity that I think every front office that doesn't get to where they need to get to, that's what they should do, is they should be open to making moves while being confident in what you have if you do need to return that with some of minor tweaks, of course, is happening. Now, the Minnesota Timberwolves have big contract decisions to make. If Julius Randle opts out, that's another one, right? Of course, you also have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's another option there. Naz Reid, who's another one. You have some big potential free agent of your own that you have to kind of look at and see what's going to be the future there. And outside of that, like if you have the risk aversion, right, or the risk tolerance to go ahead and try to take a shot at doing something that's going to make your team better and give you a higher probability of trying to make it to a finals, which you missed out on this year, you kind of have to take that, right? I know that Anthony Edwards is still very, very young, and it's easy to think, well, we're going to get there more. We're going to have more teams to get there. The Orlando Magic thought that with Shaq and Penny, right? And they didn't have that. Hell, the Orlando Magic thought that again with Dwight Howard when they made it to finals and never made it there again, right? Like, so it's easy to always think when you have youth on your side that you always got more time to figure it out. But Tim Connolly being open and realizing like, hey, we got to keep our head on the swivel here, because if a deal comes available that clearly makes us a better team, we kind of have to take that. And I for one, I appreciate that in franchises that aren't afraid to take a swing. And we'll see if that's going to be them. But another team, to end the last topic for today, another team that could be looking to take a swing is the Orlando Magic. Now, this comes from my boy Matt Moore, who I actually do Locked On NBA with, from his hardwood paroxysm, writings that he does there, is that the Orlando Magic are targeting multiple offensive-minded players using up to $25 million in combined salary to facilitate potential trades. So the Orlando Magic, much like the Minnesota Timberwolves, sit in a place where they're open to shifting their roster around for the right price and for the right deal. Saying this, Orlando is indeed shifting its approach, as it sounded like in their postseason pressers, towards making major upgrades. Sources believe that they are looking to package around $25 million in salary for various players to give the offense the jump it needs. That sounds right, because with Franz and Paolo, any addition making above that likely will demand the ball too much. And they're linked to multiple players, right? I think that the Magic sit in a place too where they're looked at it and waiting for a number of players to become available. We heard that if Devin Booker was going to come available, they were going to come knocking. Reportedly, they've been linked as well, multiple reports, to Darius Garland if he becomes available. Trae Young and Anthony Simons are the players that the Orlando Magic are open to trading for. Also, my team, if the Bulls do make Kobe White available, apparently that Kobe White is another player that they did target at the trade deadline, that they'd be more than happy to reinvigorate those trade talks with if it comes down to that. The Orlando Magic have the number 16th and 25 pick in this draft as well, which could be another thing to entice teams that are probably more so if they go after Simons or go after Kobe White. If it is the Orlando Magic with Darius Garland, I don't think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be prioritizing draft picks in that case, personally. But, so they have tools at their disposal to improve their team. That's a lot more than a lot of teams can say, right? So the Orlando Magic, if they want to get aggressive, they can. And they're going to try to add some scoring to their core. And with their solid base of defense, that makes a lot of sense for that team as well. So let me know what you guys think on all these rumors. Which team do you think is more likely to make a trade? Do you think the Houston Rockets land one of the big fish in either Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kevin Durant this offseason? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. See you guys the next time I feel like making an episode. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.